Here we are at the tail end of it all. Hello everybody, welcome back to another, now my final response to Rouga Rabid. This one, like the CIS versus the automatons video, has been a long time coming. I originally was not planning on making another response about the Predator versus Helldivers thing, but this one's it's a treat. It's a real ride. I just have to. I couldn't resist. I'm pretty sure this one's gonna be a lot shorter than my last one, because this time we only have one video to respond to, and there are only certain points that I'm really interested in responding to. First and foremost, there are things in my original video that I did do wrong. I, of course, will always admit that. I did misinterpret some things that Rouga has said in one of his videos, and he was 100% right to point that out and how I did that. So yet again, there are some things that he is correct about in this video, but there are also many other things I think he is very incorrect about as well. And those are really the only things I'm concerned about, like, responding to, because everything else is... well, it doesn't really matter as much to me. Sure, okay, he's right, whatever. But anyway, with that out of the way, let's get on to this next final response video.
So yeah, actually, surprisingly, I completely agree here. The argument that it was dumb for the Predator to not kill Wayland and completely leave the honor code out of the entire situation is an extremely stupid argument. However, I never made that argument, so I'm not really sure what he's talking about here. I would actually argue that this is a straw man. It's a complete fabrication. I've never said this in any of my videos. The section of the video that he's talking about is right here. They are constantly making stupid fucking decisions and getting themselves killed all the time. There are so many different examples. They are shown turning their back on clearly hostile enemies like an AVP. When Scar just walks away from that fucking old man because he saw that he had a heart condition, not even thinking about the possibility that old man might have a gun or something that could shoot him in the back of the fucking head. Lucky for him, he didn't. All he had was a flamethrower. But if he had like a shotgun in his jacket, Scar would be dead. What about the fact that they are constantly approaching and putting their hands on people who are very clearly armed, alive, conscious, and still dangerous? In Predators, one of these stupid motherfuckers just walks right up to a armed Russian, like fucking KGB soldier, and grabs him by the neck to like do this slow choke out, I'm gonna fucking kill you with my bare hands bullshit. And the soldier ends up having an entire grenade belt tied to his chest, which he then pulled and blew the Predator up. We know the Predator had long-range weapons. Why did he walk up to him like that? What was the purpose in that? You can't even argue that he wasn't aware that the soldier had grenades. For one, he's a soldier. He probably has grenades. But also, those Predators captured these humans on Earth, delivered them to the planet, and sent them on the planet with their weapons. You're telling me he didn't know what weapons these guys had? He literally sent them to the planet with those weapons. He didn't even take a peek to see what they were armed with. They were fully stocked. In that same movie, there's a scene where a different Predator shoots this dude in the back with a plasma caster. He flies onto the ground, and the Predator just assumes he's dead and does not confirm his kill, then goes off to continue fighting the other humans. The dude was still alive because he was wearing body armor, and then he got up, jumped on the Predator's back, and started shanking the shit out of him with a little knife. Why did the Predator not confirm the kill? Why did he just shoot him and assume he's dead? This is all basic shit. You and I and other non-trained soldiers, just regular people, would know better than to approach and try to kill a dude with your bare hands who is very clearly armed and a trained soldier. We know better than to just leave a dude alive without checking to see if he's fucking dead. This is common sense shit, and the Predators don't do it. Okay, so I don't have to say anything, right? Like, you guys have ears. You can hear that my argument here is clearly not that he's stupid for not killing the old man, that it is actually that he is stupid for turning his back on a hostile opponent. There's nothing in the honor code that says that he has to do that. There's nothing in the honor code that says he can't incapacitate the old man or make sure the old man is not a threat to him before turning his back. There's nothing in the honor code that says he has to go up to a KGB officer who is very clearly armed and try to kill him with his bare hands instead of using one of his many long-range weapons. There's nothing in the honor code code that says that when you shoot a dude down, you can just walk away and not check to confirm your kill. This is not stuff that you need to be a fucking Navy SEAL to understand. This is some pretty common sense shit. Don't turn your back on someone who's hostile and just tried to kill you with a fucking ice pick. This is what I was arguing against. I gotta say, I do find it very ironic that Zilla is making the argument that I misinterpreted the scene, only to very clearly misinterpret what I was saying in my video. This is the second video in a row he's made where he's done this, accusing me of something that he is very clearly doing. There's really no way of getting around this. Zilla is being dishonest here, whether he means to or not. That just straight up wasn't my argument at all. I don't know who he's arguing against, but it isn't me, because I never said that. Gotta say, not the best start to the video.
So, first of all, yes, he is right in one sense, that being I did misinterpret what he said about Scar and the AVP thing. So he is right for calling me out on that. I don't want to be wrong about these things. I don't want to be dishonest about these things. Thank you, Rouga, for correcting me. Now, he did also talk about these two other moments from Predators. He said that they were stupid moments on the Predators' part. I did not touch on them in my last response video about this topic because I didn't want the video to be too long, but now that I'm not really concerned about time, I'm going to touch on them because it's very interesting. I'm going to show you the two scenes that he is talking about. I'm going to go one at a time and explain my thoughts on his descriptions of these scenes. Here's the first one, where the tracker Predator kills the Russian guy from Predators, and Rouga's description of this clip is that the tracker walks up to the Russian guy, grabs him by the throat, and holds him up doing the slow chokeout thing before the Russian guy, rips open his vest and reveals the grenades before killing them both.
Рожа у тебя.
It just so turns out, the tracker Predator did actually start with a ranged attack. Did he kill him with the ranged attack? No, obviously not. But then he walks up and stabs him through the chest / stomach, whichever one you want to call it, with his wrist blade. The one flaw that you could point out about his actions here is that he maybe took too long to, seal the kill. That he spent a too long of a moment kind of, washing himself in the glory of his kill. So that could be a fair argument on this part. But I would also like to point out that the tracker Predator is stated to be a young blood, and I doubt a actual experienced Yautja, such as the Jungle Hunter or Wolf, for example, would make the same mistake, as they are very clearly not making the same mistake at all throughout their own movies. Rouga did also bring up a valid point about the fact that, hey, why wouldn't they know what their enemies are equipped with? I mean, after all, they did bring them here to this planet, right? Well, yeah, but, I don't know. Maybe this Yautja has never fought a human that used grenades to kill himself before. Maybe they thought that grenades would be used conventionally, thrown at the enemy and not used on oneself. But I do think it is funny for Rouga to just straight up call me dishonest while simultaneously playing a clip of him, dishonestly describing a scene. When he goes back and replays the clip of him explaining and talking about his opinion on why Yautja are stupid, he then, makes it seem like, oh, it was just so obvious to understand. Everybody has ears, right? But I think it's worth noting, it didn't even take me very long to scroll down in the comments of that video and find at least 2 other people saying that they could see how I misinterpreted what he said. So, yeah. Overall, this is what I mean when I say it seems like Rouga doesn't do his research. I'm not asking him to read a book. I'm not asking him to go online and find some obscure source. It's one scene out of an entire movie. When I went back to try and disprove what Rouga said about the humans are stupid argument, I rewatched the entire first Predator movie to make sure I didn't miss a single little detail. I went back and watched an entire movie to make my point, and it seems like he didn't even bother to watch in a single scene to make sure he remembered it correctly. Going back to my CIS versus automatons video for a second, Rouga says things like the battle droids can't think independently, they can't do anything on their own, they just march in a straight line and, walk to their deaths. But that's not true at all. As a matter of fact, it's actually quite a big lore detail that it's the complete opposite of what he suggests.
Look, it's RB551. No wonder he got blasted. He's one of those older models programmed by a central computer. Not us. We're independent thinkers. Roger, 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 roger.
After the Battle of Naboo, the Trade Federation realized the weakness of having droids hooked up to a single central computer. Therefore, battle droids were given more independence when they were working under the CIS. So from every standpoint, that is not true. This is what I mean when I say he doesn't seem to do even like the most bare bones of research on these things. But anyway, here is the next scene that he described, where the Berserker Predator, or Mr. Black, fires at the prisoner guy from the back and does not realize that he had an armor-plated vest on underneath of his jumpsuit.
We fucking killed it! We killed it! Woo! We fucking killed it! Who's your daddy now, motherfucker? Who's your daddy now, motherfucker? I'm my dick, bitch! Die, you space faggot! Who you think you're dealing with, huh? Know who you got?
So Rouga wasn't exactly dishonest with this one like he was in the last one. This one does basically go exactly how he described, but I do also think it's kind of silly that in his last argument for why the tracker was stupid, he says that, why wouldn't they have, checked the people that they captured? Why wouldn't they have checked their gear to see what they have before hunting them? Well, okay. Let's assume that they did. Why would he have any reason to believe that this prisoner guy could survive getting shot in the back with the plasma caster? I mean, we've seen what these weapons have done to people before. Why should he have any, logical reason to believe that this guy could survive a blast like that? He didn't know that he had that armor plating equipped. He wouldn't have known. So this argument is kind of strange to me, not gonna lie. Also, what exactly did you expect him to do? Crouch down and stab the prisoner guy's corpse in the neck or something to make sure he's dead, and then leave himself exposed and vulnerable for all the other enemies, right in front of him? I mean, is that what you wanted him to do? I really don't understand what he's saying here. It's, again, just kind of a weird argument.
So you are correct here. There's nowhere in the lore that states the automatons are made out of titanium. The reason why I say that they're made out of titanium is because we know that they are scavengers and get basically all of their technology from Super Earth. Given that all of Super Earth's armor is made out of a titanium alloy, it just makes sense that the automaton's armor is also made out of titanium. I do not believe that every single automaton from every nut and bolt and even the little basic soldier troopers are made out of titanium. They would have to kill an egregious number of Helldivers in order to acquire enough titanium to make a single Devastator, but I do think that it would make sense that the armor, specifically the plating, would be made out of the same thing that the Helldivers' armor are made out of. I don't think ironclad is taken literally. Ironclad is oftentimes used metaphorically to just mean very heavily armored, and considering that our real world military doesn't even really use iron anymore, it just doesn't make sense to me why this species that is a space-faring, colonizing worlds type species would still use armor that's we have even passed up, especially considering that iron alloy armors are heavier and less durable than things like steel. It just doesn't make sense to me that it would be iron. As for you not buying that they can punch through or whatever, you can punch through Devastators, you can punch through Chainsaw Boys. I once meleeed a Harvester to death, you know, the giant tripod three-legged things that the Illuminates have. Yeah, you can absolutely melee them. You don't need a weapon to do it, you can just go punch them. and it's not like they just fall apart and their bolts get disconnected. You literally punch through the metal, it cracks and breaks as you hit it. This is something that would not be possible for people with normal levels of strength. Even if you want to say that this isn't titanium for whatever reason, and say that it's something less like steel or even argue iron, you would still need considerably more than human level strength in order to do something like that.
So I do think that he is pretty much correct here with his thought process on why the automatons are likely made out of titanium. I wasn't totally sure myself when I first made this video. It's why I kind of asked him instead of, you know, tried to debunk anything that he said, because I just needed to know the context for why he was saying that. He gave the context. It's pretty valid, pretty sound, so I agree with what he's saying here. The only problem I do have is that when he says punching through titanium, I think, like, you know, Superman punching a hole through some robot's chest. Like, that's the kind of thing that I was thinking about when I heard punch through titanium. I didn't realize that he meant, you know, breaking off small chunks and cracking off pieces as you punched them, you know, repeatedly. So it's good that he clarified that as well. But something else I would like to actually kind of correct him on is that, as far as I'm aware, there is no way in the game that you can punch things with your bare fists. Every time you punch something or melee something, you're either using a weapon, like a sword or a machete, or like a baton or electro thing, whatever the hell it's called, or you're using the butt of your weapon to hit things.
My leg!
Now, Helldivers are still very physically strong. I'm not saying that they aren't, but I do think it's wrong to say that they can just break things with their bare hands without actually acknowledging the fact that, no, they do use the butts of their weapons, which are very helpful in taking a lot of the impact and taking the, you know, brunt of the damage and the force that you would have to deal with if you're literally punching metal. Now, the next segment after this was about the not everything is canon argument, although I already kind of touched on that enough in my last video, so if you haven't seen it already, just go ahead and check out my last video to get my thoughts on that.
So this is the point of the video where I'm starting to realize that Zilla actually doesn't have that great of knowledge of Helldivers lore as a whole, because he's speaking about things that we know for a fact happen as if it's theoretical. Like, he talks about how it's not that much of a stretch to think that Super Earth dabbles in eugenics with things like the different breeding licenses and shit. But that's worded kind of oddly because we know for a fact that they absolutely do use eugenics. This has been confirmed in multiple pieces of the lore. He also states that he doesn't think they're superhuman, but peak human, when we also know for a fact that genetic tampering has been done on Super Earth citizens for well over 100 years. I would suggest he look into things like Cobb genetics. They are superhuman, all of them, the entire species, not only through birthing programs, but also through actual genetic tampering and manipulation.
Yeah, I mean, true. I've never claimed to be an expert at Helldivers lore. I've never implied that I was an expert at Helldivers lore. Back when I was making these videos, I didn't have that big of an understanding of Helldivers lore. I still don't have a massive understanding of Helldivers lore. I think I'm only a little bit past surface level. I'm not, like, the biggest into it, but I'm not, like, stupid either. It's not like I don't know anything about it. I just probably know less than he does, I guess. So yeah, there probably are a few slip-ups in some of my videos where I say things like something is implied or it's likely, when in reality it's pretty obvious that, you know, Helldivers, or I guess Super Earth humans in general, are genetically enhanced. But then the argument of how genetically enhanced comes up. When I say peak human, I mean somebody like Michael Myers, for example. Peak human, in my mind, is a maximum strength human being with all bodily limitations turned off and adrenaline running high. And I think Michael Myers matches pretty closely to what we could see from a peak human individual that I am referring to. I don't think Michael Myers should be considered superhuman. I think he is considered peak human, at least in the modern Halloween reboot trilogy. I've never watched any of the older ones aside from the first movie. I've only watched the first movie and, you know, the newer ones. So I don't know anything about some of these other random movies that came out after the first one. Don't correct me on that, okay? I don't care about those. in the trilogy, in the modern trilogy, I don't think he's considered superhuman. He has some good showings, yeah, but like, they're nothing crazy impressive. Or at the very least, he'd be like tier 1 superhuman. When I was making my argument in my last video, that's kind of what I imagined the Helldivers as. I think that you could make an argument for them being superhuman, but it's going to be very low on that superhuman scale, in my opinion. We've never really seen anything too impressive. Unless maybe I'm forgetting something, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. In that case, somebody correct me, I guess. But at this very moment, off the top of my head, the best feat I can think of for a Helldiver is them punching metal, which we've already talked about. They do use the butt of their weapon and other melee weapons to, take the brunt of the force that they get from hitting that metal, so their hands are not, like, injured or broken from punching that metal. And then, are they really punching the titanium like you say they are? Because we gotta remember, I mean, even you said yourself, I think we both agree that not all automatons are made entirely with titanium. The troopers probably don't have much, if any, titanium on them. The Devastators have titanium on them, I believe, but that's only in specific armored spots. Are the Helldivers punching the armored titanium spots on the Devastator? Or are they punching the giant, exposed weak point in the belly where all the mechanisms are showing? You've gotta think about these things. So I think the strength of your average Helldiver is extremely debatable.
I find this entire section of the video to be pretty funny, actually. He starts off by arguing against my point that I think all of the characters make stupid decisions. And then he proceeds to agree that all of the decisions are stupid before giving reasonings as to why those characters do stupid things. He says, yeah, it's stupid they shoot all into the woods and all this shit, but this is why it happens. He goes through a couple of the arguments that I made and say, yeah, well, that's fair, but, well, I get that, but, maybe, but, and then proceeds to just explain how I'm right.
In actuality, you will find that I did not do that. I only conceded to 2 things that I thought were stupid in the movie. One of them being sleeves being off for a little bit in the movie, which is basically not even a big deal. And then the second one being Dutch and his group shooting out into the jungle at nothing for a super long period of time. I explained that it could make sense for them to be shooting out into nothing, that it's not stupid that they're doing that alone. Like, the fact that they're shooting out into the jungle alone isn't stupid because, of course, they come up, they see their comrade, their brother in arms shooting out into the jungle, panics, terrified, and they should trust him enough to know that, hey, there's probably something out there that we're trying to hit, and lay out suppressive fire. That is not stupid. That alone is not dumb. My problem with that scene was how long it went on for. Like I said in my video, Dutch literally unloads a mag and then changes to a new one and continues firing. That's pretty bonkers. I never once said that everything these characters do is stupid. Funnily enough, that is a complete fabrication on Rouga's end.
His main argument here is that there's a reason as to why they do stupid things, but I never said there wasn't a reason for why they do stupid things. I just said they do incredibly stupid things. The reasoning as to why they behave stupid isn't relevant to them behaving stupid. He literally goes down every single character on the roster and explains in detail all of their flaws and why they do the stupid things they do. Arguments I never even made. I honestly think he's proving my point better than I ever did. So we're kind of in agreement on this.
Okay, so to be fair, I do think that, like in the last video, this is another one of those things where I should have clarified what I was saying better. I did misinterpret what he said. I did think that he was saying that there was no reason for the characters to behave the way that they did, which was, my fault. Yeah, of course, I misunderstood him, I misheard him. But I think something Rouga needs to realize is pay attention to all the things that I said that they did. The only 2, I would say, problematic individuals in that film were Dylan and Mac. Dylan being the most problematic, but even then, he didn't really do much of anything to hinder the team. Nobody did. How exactly did Mac's PTSD hinder the team? How did it lower their chances? How exactly did Dylan being up in his own ass hinder the team? He didn't believe that they were being hunted, sure, and he had the wrong mindset, sure, but what exactly did he do to put them in a worse situation? He did nothing. The stupidest thing Dylan did was argue with Dutch and the others about what was going on. But aside from that, he did nothing to hold the team back. Poncho was, as I said, just scared shitless. Yet again, he didn't do anything to hold the team back. Billy was also terrified, but yet again, he didn't do anything to hold the team back. Dutch especially did nothing to hold the team back. As for Mac, I would say maybe the stupidest thing that you could say he did was chase after the Predator after all their traps failed, after everything went wrong. And then of course Dylan followed him because he believed he needed to reconcile by buying Dutch and the others time and helping Mac to try and fight or maybe even kill the Predator. But that is it. That is the one and only thing, aside from the other two that I mentioned, the, not wearing sleeves 24/7 and, the shooting out into nothing. Mac running off to go fight the Predator and try and kill it was the one and only thing aside from that was actually just downright stupid. I just want to come in during editing here again to emphasize how little of a problem the no sleeves thing is. So basically only two things that are downright stupid. One of the three things that is actually stupid that they did is basically a nothing burger. One of the three things that was actually stupid that they did can be mostly rationalized except for how long it goes on for. The only stupid thing that cannot be rationalized whatsoever is Mac running off, and that happens at the very tail end of their confrontation with the Predator, when they try and run for evac. Saying that these characters are all just total idiots and everything that they do is dumb, and that's the only reason the Predator stood even a slight chance, is genuinely ridiculous. Aside from that moment, none of these characters did anything in this movie to actually hinder their team's effectiveness. I would honestly go as far as saying it's really impressive how well they held each other up. Even with all that PTSD and fear running through them, they still did really well, and they were still organized for a pretty good amount of time until everything just kind of fell apart at the end.
As for the whole Billy section and trying to explain as to why Billy was doing this and how this wasn't stupid, again, this is another argument I never really made, but sure, why not? Let's touch on it. He says that Billy did this because he realizes that guns don't work, so he throws his gun and his armor away to face him on that log. Why does Billy believe that guns don't work? They shot Predator earlier in the movie. They literally found his blood in the woods after they shot him. Guns work just fine. You have to hit him with the gun, but guns aren't worthless, so him coming to the conclusion that guns don't work doesn't make any sense. Yes, guns work.
Rouga, you just answered your own question. They hit the jungle hunter with the gun. Yeah, okay. How many times did they do that, Rouga? How many bullets actually penetrated his flesh, Rouga? Come on. Out of all that suppressive fire they laid out, out of all the bullets they shot, out of all the ammunition they laid on the floor, they only hit him one time. I think it's safe to say guns in that scenario, in his mind, would not be seen as reliable. Do you think a gun is a reliable weapon against the Flash or against Spider-Man? Sure, if the gun hits them, then it could be effective, it could injure or even maybe kill them, but the issue is actually trying to hit them. There's not even really any point. Both of them can dodge these weapons effortlessly. I'm pretty sure they both find it humorous when you pull out a gun on them. The Predator doesn't have these same kind of superhuman reflexes like Spider-Man. The Predator does not have the same kind of superhuman speed as the Flash. But in Billy's eyes, based on the experience that he has with this creature, guns are not effective. If you have a gun and are only going to hit one shot out of 100, what is even the point? At this point in time, in Billy's scenario, in Billy's shoes, I find it kind of comical that you say guns are actually going to work, and it's silly for Billy to just throw his away. I think whether or not you actually hit your target is a big deal and a big part of what makes a gun effective.
Zilla also said he picked a specific spot on that log without any trees above him so he couldn't be ambushed, which would force the Predator to go across the log and fight him, right? But why Billy already knows that this dude has long-range attacks, including a giant fucking plasma bolt, because he's already used it to kill multiple of them. Billy is also well aware that he has camo, meaning he doesn't even need to hide when he fucking shoots him. Zilla goes into detail about how Billy understood the Predator's warrior mentality and wanted to challenge that Predator in like a 1v1, but for one, that goes against previous things that he said, because if he believed in the warrior mentality and that they could face 1v1, he wouldn't need to find a spot where there were no places for ambush. If he believed that the Predator would just fight him mano-a-mano in a fair fight if he had challenged him, location wouldn't matter. He could have literally stood anywhere in the forest with a machete and challenged the Predator to a fight, and the Predator, using his code of honor, would have faced him 1v1.
Okay, there is a thing later. I do think that it was wrong to say Billy understood the Predator's warrior mentality specifically, but I do think it was right to say Billy understood the Predator's mentality. But I still do need to touch on this. Let's assume for a second that Billy did understand the Predator's warrior mentality. No, that does not go against what I said. You ever heard of something called assurance? Billy would have had a hunch. He would have believed something. Does he know for sure, though? No, of course not. Not only that, but he would also be limiting the Predator's maneuverability on that single log rather than giving him all the space in the jungle where he knows the Predator can quickly traverse and hop around. Standing alone in the jungle with a machete is giving himself a huge tactical disadvantage. Standing on the log is also a tactical disadvantage for him too, but it gives him more of a chance to actually injure the Predator. Him standing on the log is more of a you win some, you lose some. He is still at a disadvantage, but he is at less of a disadvantage than he would be in the middle of the jungle. He wouldn't know for certain that the Predator would have this, specific honor code that just forced him to fight Billy in a 1v1, but him believing that does not mean he knows for sure. He had no way of knowing for sure, which is why he would have used that log area as not only a tactical advantage, but assurance. Earlier in this video, Rouga talks about common sense strategy that your average Joe could pick up on, and I feel like this is one of them. If you have an enemy with superior mobility, why would you not want to limit their mobility? If they use maneuverability and mobility to their advantage, why wouldn't you stop them from being able to use that to their advantage?
But that's not even my argument. My argument is that Billy had no way of knowing that the Predator would actually play this little game. The only thing Billy knew about him is that he was a hunter and he was intelligent. He was clearly finding and killing people, taking them as trophies, doing things like this. He had no reason to believe that he would want to fucking fight mano-a-mano on a log. Where did he get this information from? Just being aware that the character is a hunter and doesn't automatically go after and hunt unarmed women does not suddenly justify the decision that this dude's totally gonna want to sword fight me on a log.
I think you are seriously undermining just how big of a point the Predator not killing an unarmed woman actually is. Can I agree that it was wrong to say that Billy understood the Predator's warrior mentality? Sure. Yeah, okay, I was wrong to say that, but I will still say that Billy understood the Predator's mentality. It had at least some degree of understanding of what the Predator was there for. The Predator does not kill unarmed people because, as Dutch himself said, there's no sport in it.
Come on, don't! Leave it! He didn't kill you because you weren't armed. No sport.
The Predator is there for a challenge, and Billy was presenting that challenge. Billy knew he was probably going to die in that jungle, and so he said, you know what, screw it. I'm gonna go with my gut, I'm gonna go with my hunch, and I'm gonna figure out if I'm right or not. I'm gonna challenge the Predator, see if they accept. The Predator proved that it was not just there to kill all willy-nilly because it felt like it and just liked the look of blood. It proved that it wanted a challenge. It had specific targets in mind. The Predator isn't a poacher. Poachers kill indiscriminately. They just kill things whether they can defend themselves or not. The Predator specifically goes after things that can defend themselves. It specifically goes after things could provide a challenge.
Yes, these decisions are stupid. The characters in this movie make very dumb decisions. They fumble a lot. They're all mentally fucking distraught. They don't act like real, actual soldiers, and they don't do the things that soldiers do. And Zilla's counter to my whole point about them not using stealth by saying, yeah, he was totally using stealth at night by hiding in the cover of night when they were sleeping is not actually a counter to what I said, which is that they don't use stealth. If you're gonna say they only use use stealth because they're sleeping in trees at night, and at no point during the day where they're actually moving through the woods do they use stealth. That's not a counter to what I said. They did not use stealth at all. At any point, not once. They are chased by the predator for bare minimum 2 days, likely more, and at no point during the day, when they're actually up and about and fighting, do they ever even attempt to use any form of stealth. Nah, man, these dudes are fucking dumb.
This has got to be the absolute funniest part of the video. I think this is hilarious right here. I'm going to show you what I said in my original video. I'm going to show you the part that he's responding to right here. And I remember Rouga saying that the characters were stupid because they basically spent the whole movie running around the jungle without attempting any stealth tactics, like covering themselves in mud, which is a relatively common tactic used for stealth operations in jungle warfare. I believe he was correct about that. I can say that's fair, and I see where he's coming from, but the only problem with that is that they were not spending the whole movie running around the jungle. They actually spent most of their time trying to build traps and lure the predator in. The first time they build traps and set up camp, they're concealed by the dead of night. I could argue that staying still and quiet in the darkness alone would be enough to keep you mostly concealed to the naked eye, which is what they're assuming the predator has. The second time they set up traps, they're doing it for the purpose of luring the predator in. I mean, this is why Dutch literally goes out into the open to try and bait it into coming for him, which does work. If they had covered themselves with mud and leaves and whatnot, that would have kind of defeated the purpose of luring the predator into a trap. If he doesn't know where they are, why would he come for them and walk into their trap? You could also argue that when their traps failed and they decided to run for extract, they should have mudded up or tried camouflaging while Dylan, Mac, and Billy were buying them time. But these guys have seen how fast the predator moves. They've seen how fast the predator kills its prey. I don't think they're going to waste a single moment rolling around in the mud when they have no clue how much time they have before the predator catches up. Good, okay. Now that you've seen it, do you understand what I'm getting at now? Do you understand why I think this is so funny? I made 3 points about the stealth thing. The whole movie is split into these 3 different scenarios, basically, okay? After they've been encountering the predator. Scenario 1, they are hunkering down for the night. They're building traps all around them to alert them if anything comes close. They're laying down and staying still in the dead of night to go to sleep. That is stealth enough for at least that scenario there. They don't know that the predator has thermal vision. They have no reason to really believe that, honestly. For scenario 1, they're just fine. They don't need to be covering themselves in mud for scenario 1. For scenario 2, they are busy building traps for the sole purpose of luring the predator in to try and capture and kill it. Let me say that again. They are building traps this entire time for the sole purpose of luring the predator in and killing it. They aren't trying to hide from the predator. They're trying to draw it in. Like I said in my video, again, Dutch literally walks out into the open to draw the predator in.
Dutch! Dutch!
Covering yourself in mud and leaves defeat the purpose of that. And then for the third and final segment, when everything falls apart and they're all running away to try and get to extract. Mac and Dylan run off to go try and hold off the predator. Meanwhile, Dutch, Poncho, Billy, and the other random lady, did she have a name? I don't know. I don't remember. I don't care. And the other random lady, they all go running to try and get to extract before the predator catches up. They know how fast the predator is. They know how efficient it is. Why would they stop and mud up when they could be using that time to sprint and get the hell out of there. And then even if they did take the time to mud up, what use is that going to do? Sure, the Predator has thermal vision, it sees through heat, but that doesn't mean it can't see you moving if you're mudded up. The Predator has been shown consistently to be able to see things that are moving even if they are cold, even if their body heat does not register. If you've got, like 4 people mudded up running through the jungle, that's not going to do anything. The Predator is still going to see your movement. When I said there are logical explanations and reasons for them not doing the things that you're saying, this is what I'm talking about. I make these points in my video, and you only respond to one of them. You ignore the last 2. I made some pretty valid arguments. I made some valid points. I expect you to respond to those when you're actually making a response video.
Okay, so what the hell? You take away their stratagems, you take away all of their best weapons, armors, grenades, everything else, and you still think the Helldivers win? What was even the point of this? I feel like you didn't disagree with me at all. I mean, I still disagree with you, but it doesn't really seem like you disagree with me.
I did mention this in another video of mine, but I was actually wrong about what I said about how the Helldivers could probably see the Predators in cloaking because of their trackers. Because it turns out, actually, the Yautja do get hidden from trackers and sensors and other stuff like that when they are cloaked. So it is more similar to Covenant cloaking than I gave it credit for. So, my bad, but I'm fixing that now. So basically, my entire argument here at the end of this video is basically thrown out the window, and the Yautja do now have an even better chance at fighting the Helldivers.
I actually think he's giving the Predator way too much credit and ignoring a lot of shit on the Helldiver side when the things he's saying. He said that big old Predator that's from the animated movie Killer of Killers should be capable of defeating the squad of 4 Helldivers because he can punch people and basically turn them into paste just by punching them, and he compares that to a Charger running at a Helldiver that is somehow not comparable to that. But how is that not comparable? A Charger, bare minimum, is like 5 to 10 tons running at you at what, 25-30 miles per hour, and it doesn't just ram into you, it steps on top of you and you still survive even if you're not wearing heavy armor. You don't think that a 5-10 ton animal running at you and stepping on top of you as it passes wouldn't turn you into fucking paste? That's without even bringing up the Hive Lord smashing on top of you. The Helldivers take way more damage than just this big dude's punches.
I'm assuming he's bringing up the Hive Lord thing because I said that, gameplay, all of it's canon in that video, but obviously, it's not. And a Helldiver, realistically would not survive getting crushed by a Hive Lord, considering they've been killed by a lot less than that. And please point out to me where exactly I said the, Charger attack is not comparable to the Predator from Killer of Killers. When did I use that word? I didn't say that. I think the difference that you need to realize between the Charger and the big Viking Predator is that the Charger has to charge. It hits you one time, sends you flinging, maybe rolls on top of you or something. It hits you that one time, then has to turn back around and come at you again, like a moment or so later. A Helldiver has, plenty of time to get back up and retaliate after that. Put a Helldiver up against the Viking Predator. I said that his armor probably couldn't negate that because, it can't negate a Charger attack. They still get damage from it. Sure, they can take a Charger attack, but they still often in-game get fractured bones. They lose a lot of health from Charger attacks too. Chargers are dangerous. They are deadly. Helldivers do not just take a Charger and walk it off without injury at all. And that's with one singular Charger hit, then maybe a stim afterwards. Okay, let me see that same Helldiver getting pummeled multiple times in, rapid succession by that Viking Predator that is probably got the same strength behind those punches as a charger attack. That'd be like, 3 or 5 chargers hitting you in rapid succession. You're not getting up from that.
You say that the big-ass Predator from Predators is bulletproof, but bulletproof in what way? First off, he's not bulletproof. They literally kill him with a pistol by shooting him in the face. That's how they defeat him. He's just more resistant than most.
Rouga, you literally just disproved your own argument 3 weeks ago.
Taking the number 7 spot, we have Upgrade from the Predator. I don't have to argue for this one, right? Like, we're all pretty much on the same page that Upgrade is ridiculously overpowered. He is a genetically enhanced super predator that's bulletproof, 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 bullet, is 11 feet tall and can fucking manhandle basically any predator on this list with one arm without any issues. He is stupidly overpowered, and he's one of the main reasons why people don't like the fucking movie. That and autism, obviously. They just think he's such a ridiculous over-the-top character. He fits more in like a fucking Marvel movie than he would in a Predator movie. He's just too ungodly overpowered. Now, while we don't have that many examples of how skilled Upgrade is, it doesn't really matter. When you're this big, this strong, and this much more powerful than everybody else, you don't really need to be all that skilled. Like, it doesn't really matter if Wolf is more skilled than Upgrade. He just straight up won't be able to kill Upgrade. Fugitive, a predator from the same movie, literally snapped his arm blade on the skin of Upgrade. I've already gone over how hard those blades are. They're harder than any metal found on Earth. Basically, no character on this list would even be able to damage Upgrade. Dude's just too over-the-top powerful. Now, I have seen an argument once or twice that he's actually not bulletproof, because at the end of the movie, the human characters are shown harming him with just regular guns. At one point, a character even shoots him in the head with a pistol, and it clearly does damage. But I think people are mistaking the difference between bulletproof and complete bullet immunity. No one ever said Upgrade had bullet immunity. Bullets do not affect him for the vast majority of the movie. Even large military-grade rifles don't do any damage. It's not until he is hit by several rockets and other fucking crazy Predator space weapons that blow his goddamn limbs off that pistols and shit finally do some damage. I actually don't think that this is an inconsistency at all. I think it's pretty clear here that he had so much shit blow up on him up to this point that it just weakened his armor skin to the point that now normal bullets can hurt him. I mean, the dude even survived a spaceship crashing to Earth. He was very clearly fucked up by the time bullets actually started to hurt him. But yeah, no, Upgrade is stupidly overpowered, and I don't think that anyone below him on this list would actually be able to kill him. Maybe at some point, when Marcy's like a god-level being, they can hack into his spaceship and turn it on him and fucking throw thousands of xenomorphs at him. Maybe then she can do something. But as of right now, he's fucking slaughtering through all of her xenomorphs and butchering her, no problem. I don't think Dutch is killing him. Wolf's not killing. No, this dude, he's fucking up everybody.
You basically make my argument for me. And if you want to talk about plasma weapons in Helldivers, okay, the plasma caster that the Yautja use has been seen blowing through the hulls of starships. The upgraded Predator just took one of those. Sure, it sent him flying, but he was not physically, it didn't seem to penetrate his skin at all. He seemed fine when he got back up. I don't think there are any Helldivers plasma weapons that are powerful enough to basically blow through starship holes. I don't doubt that it's possible that a plasma weapon could, hurt him like the plasma caster did. I mean, I'm sure that hurt, but actually penetrating his skin or killing him is a whole other issue.
But the Helldivers weapons aren't modern guns. Every single gun they have is some form of armor penetration or explosive or heat-based or plasma. It's all the same shit. Even if you take the Liberator, it's still an armor-piercing round that's capable of firing through the chassis of your automatons, who are made out of some form of metal, even if you don't want to say it's titanium. There's no evidence that any of these Predators are going to be able to take these kinds of shots.
I feel like Rouga just kind of flip-flops between what he's saying about the automatons and how they're made of titanium. I mean, literally, earlier on, he says that not all the automatons, down to every nut and bolt, is made of titanium. But now he's saying that a Liberator can shoot through titanium and blow them to pieces. No. You want to know what the titanium part of the automatons more than likely is? It's this. It's this part on the Devastator. I've said this already, but it's this right here. It's the actual armor plating. It's not the weak point inside. The titanium is used as the Hulk's shell. The troopers more than likely do not have any titanium. And if they do have titanium on them, it is very little. Very, very little. Liberators are more than likely not shooting through titanium like that.
Earlier in the video, I didn't put it in here because it wasn't really necessary. Basically, if you want to see it, you can check out his video. But he started listing all of the different Predators and all the stuff that they've done. And when he talked about the movie Predators, he was talking about them being shot and stuff. He's like, oh, he takes this shot, he takes this shot. But in all the images that he showed of the Predators being shot, they didn't take it. I mean, they didn't die, but the bullets very clearly entered their flesh and did damage. Flintlock pistol went through them, sniper rounds went through them, pistols went through them. This is all doing damage. The Helldivers weapons are significantly stronger than any modern weapon, especially stronger than a fucking flintlock pistol.
This is what I meant when I called Rouga a rage baiter, because he's not this stupid. I know he's not this stupid. He isn't. He seems like a decent guy with a decent head on his shoulders, right? Seems like your average dude. He's not a moron. I'm not a moron. He knows what I was saying. I know what I was saying. This is rage bait. This is him messing with me now, okay? Just in case somebody out there doesn't understand, he's saying that I was saying that, you know, Predators could take certain shots from different weapons and whatnot, and he's saying that actually they can't take those shots because you can clearly see the bullets going through their flesh. Okay. When did I call your average Yautja bulletproof? I never said that. They have bulletproof armor, I can say that, but they don't have bulletproof skin. I never once, aside from the upgraded Predator, who is a special case, I have never once said that the Yautja are bulletproof. I have never once said or even implied that bullets will bounce right off of the skin of your average Yautja. When I say they can take certain things, I mean they can take the punishment and keep on fighting like normal. The feral Predator gets shot in the back of the head point blank with a flintlock pistol. I don't care if that's a flintlock. A point blank shot would absolutely decimate any human being to the back of the head. Any human being is absolutely dead. I'm sorry. But the feral Predator takes that shot, is only momentarily dazed by it, and then continues fighting like normal during the final fight scene with Naru. And you're trying to tell me he can't take that? That wasn't him taking the shot. That wasn't him taking the punishment. But see, here's the thing. This is something that is blatantly, obviously rage bait, because at this point in the video, he thinks that all my arguments are stupid, and he's just messing around at this point. He doesn't care to try and be serious anymore. I've heard Rouga say in a VC once that at least one thing in every single video of his is just dead wrong, or at least intended to, you know, piss people off. Now, if you don't believe me when I say that, I obviously can't show you him saying those exact words because, again, I don't record VCs like a weird person, but I 100% think I can convince you that I'm not lying my ass off right now based on this clip right here.
What got you into scaling any character in particular? I am not into scaling. I'm not a scaler. I've said this several occasions in comments and videos. I do not scale. People and scalers and stuff who come to my video and bitch and complain that I got my information wrong are not getting the joke. The Would You Survive videos are not about scaling. They are about bringing characters together from different stories and seeing how they will react to one another. All the scaling stuff that I do is specifically meant to make fun of scalers. All the math in my videos are fucking wrong as shit on purpose, because scalers just make up fucking math and do wrong math that they find on the internet that they think is right. I can't tell you how many times I've seen things like Death Battle and shit where you look at the math and if you actually correct their math, it's just fucking wrong and nobody cares. Like that you just cheat the math to try and make the characters as powerful as humanly possible. My Would You Survive videos have three purposes, and in order of importance they are entertainment and to make you laugh. That's number one. Number two is to explore these characters as characters and to see what they would do in a particular situation. That's the part that interests me. Third and lastly is to make fun of scalers. Those are the three things. What you do not see on that list is scaling accuracy, because I don't give a fuck about the scaling. It's not important to me. One of my favorite things is to make the video and then see people who take this shit way too seriously bitch and complain in the comments section about how I was wrong, not getting the joke that I'm making fun of them. That is the funniest shit in the world to me.
This is the sole reason why I'm not interested in responding to Rouga Rabid's videos anymore. I'm not interested in, talking about them anymore. Because what's the point? I mean, he says it pretty explicitly here. One of his goals is to piss off power scalers because he finds them annoying. So, if I can't tell what in his video is rage bait or what in his video is intended to piss people like me off who actually enjoy taking these conversations seriously, why should I bother talking about them? What's the point? Why should I take the things he says seriously if he's not willing to take it seriously either? How exactly am I supposed to know what is rage bait and what isn't? How many things in the last video that I debunked, how many of those things did he say on purpose just to try and piss off Star Wars fans? I'm willing to wager probably a lot of it was on purpose. But overall, I think that if you're going into this whole conversation, if you are actively, if one of your goals are actively to piss off a certain demographic of people and to, upset them and annoy them because you don't like them, then by default, your arguments are being made in bad faith, and I don't see a reason in, interacting with bad faith arguments and trying to debunk them, because, again, what's the point?
If we wanted to take a real-world gun and try and fire it through the front armor of an automaton, you'd need like a 50 cal, and even then, it may not go through depending on what that armor is made out of. Like, 50 cals don't go through fucking tank armor. I just don't get where he's coming from when he says the Predators will be able to out-strengthen or out-durability or really do anything to the Predator. I think a single Helldiver would be able to defeat a single Predator from literally any film, including Killer of Killers, that has ever come out easily. It would not be hard. And if you want to take all that shit literally that happens in the game and just say everything that happens in canon, well, now you have light dodging, hive lord smashing fucking super soldiers that can easily melee to death harvesters. Like, this is not a close match at all. The Predators don't stand a chance. Even if you do take the comics that aren't even canon anymore and really never were, as the movies consistently contradict them, there's just no winning for the Predators here in any conceivable way.
This is yet another kind of interesting thing. I'm left really confused about this one. He goes as far as saying that none of the Predator comics have ever been canon because the movies consistently contradict them. Okay. I mean, he said this many times before. I've heard him say this a few times, but I've never actually really heard him explain how all these comics are being contradicted by these films. He says this, but he doesn't really explain his reasoning or his stance on this. Maybe there is some other, video out there that I haven't seen where he does go into more detail, but out of, the few videos that I have seen, and I've watched a handful, I have yet to actually hear him talk in detail about why all of these comics are non-canon and how every single one of these movies contradicts them. The only time I have heard him talk about it was Prey being, the flintlock pistol thing. But that's only one example, and one singular example is not enough to completely invalidate every Predator comic ever. I have talked to other Predator fans that have, read the comics and know more about the comics than I do, just to see and get their opinion on this, and all of them are coming up empty with answers. They are left just as confused as I am. The general consensus in the Predator community seems to be that most of the comics are canon with some exceptions.
And he very clearly agrees with that, at least to some extent, since he had to strip them of all the things that made the Helldivers awesome and use literally the weakest versions of them possible. He basically used a starter Helldiver with the starting equipment that went down to a planet, waited past the 40 minutes so that he could no longer call stratagems, and then the Helldiver arrives to fight. And still came to the conclusion that the Helldiver wins. Fucking wild.
I think this was a mistake on my part, now that I, think back about it. I did give the Helldivers, like, the default armor and weapons and whatnot. Like the Liberator, the default sidearm, default grenades. I don't really think giving them, like, specialized equipment actually makes much of a difference. I would still generally go against giving them stratagems, though, because I don't find that fight interesting. I don't find them spamming orbital lasers and whatnot around the surrounding area because they can't see something that's attacking them to be very interesting. I find this matchup interesting because I want to test the Helldivers as actual soldiers. I don't want them to just rely on stratagems and orbital bombardments. I want to test the Helldivers and see how capable they are as individuals, because what makes the Predator scenario so interesting is how it tests the soldier as an individual and how it tests their skill sets. The original Predator movie wouldn't have been so good or so interesting if we just gave Dutch the ability to, bombard the Predator with eagle strikes and an orbital laser. That isn't fun to talk about. That's not interesting to talk about. I don't know why you would even want to talk about that. I think that I should have, looking back, I kind of avoided giving them, like, specific weapons because I thought, there's so many weapons that Helldivers could use. People might complain if I didn't touch on a certain one or if I didn't do this instead of that or whatever. So I just kind of stuck with default equipment overall, across the board. I think that was an even worse mistake, though, because I don't know. I think regardless of what I think people would have complained about if I didn't do a certain thing, I should have just given them, like, customized loadouts. I don't think the armor really matters. The armor is a nothing burger, but the weapons, I think I could have, given them one Helldiver, like, a machine gun. I could have given the other a flamethrower, another one, a plasma weapon, stuff like that. I could have kind of changed it up a little bit. I mean, overall, again, I don't think it would really make that big of a difference. I don't think it would alter the end result that much in my mind. The only reason I gave the Helldivers the win was because of the cloaking thing and how I thought that Predator cloaking would be basically ineffective. And of course, I was wrong. So now, I think it's actually safer to say that most Predators would win more times than not.
Okay, so I actually think this is the worst argument he's made so far because it shows a fundamental misunderstanding of how human nature works. There is a massive, massive difference between being ideologically possessed and being stupid. I don't really understand what he's trying to say here. Does he think that there is no such thing as intelligent Nazis? They were ideologically possessed and they weren't allowed to have free thought and ideas outside of the belief of Nazism, but they had some of the most intelligent scientists and military strategists in the world. So I just think this is a fundamentally false claim. If you just look at the missions in Helldivers, it's very clear based on the skills that they have that they're not stupid. They clearly have very good military training. They're capable of hacking into computers and doing every single mission that exists within the game. You can't be dumb and do most of this stuff. They have a masterful understanding of weapons. They captain their own fucking destroyer super ship. Why the assumption that they're dumb? I mean, in theory, the intelligence of a Helldiver is just the intelligence of whoever is playing the game. If you are capable of strategizing well with the other players within the game, then you're intelligent, or that Helldiver would be intelligent. If you've ever seen gamers and hardcore gamers, they have fucking strategic ability. You say that the Helldivers will not be able to come up with strategies in the same way that Dutch did after acquiring all of the information, but by saying that, you're just saying the players can't do that. Helldivers already overcame that when they introduced the Stalker. Stalkers came up and started killing people, and then the player base very quickly started to figure out strategies to overcome them and began overcoming them. But whether you want to take the gameplay as canon or not canon, you just straight up don't have any evidence that these characters are stupid. It's entirely based on them being an ideologue for a certain political ideology, and that doesn't make them dumb. That's not in any way tied to intelligence. Anybody can be swept up and possessed by an ideologue regardless of intelligence levels. I do not think that there is good enough evidence that he gave to determine that the Helldivers are just not intelligent.
Okay, so you say that, being ideologically possessed and being stupid are two different things, and to an extent that is true, but your example is pretty horrible, in my opinion. You use the Nazis as an example. Okay, the Nazis, sure. First of all, I think it is wrong to use the Nazis as an example in general, because the way they were swept up in their ideology was very different from how Super-Earth citizens were swept up. Super-Earth citizens were born into an already corrupt and dystopian world. The Nazis were convinced into that corrupt kind of world and that twisted world. People who fought and sided with the Nazis already had established lives and thoughts and feelings outside of that, but they were convinced into joining that regime. So yes, anybody can be swept up and, brought into a certain ideology, but I think it's very important to take into account how exactly the person was swept up and brought into the ideology. I also think it's kind of funny that when he does actually talk about intelligent Nazis, he mentions the scientists and military strategists. Okay, cool. I never said Super-Earth had dumb scientists or military strategists. I'm sure their scientists and military strategists are actually fairly intelligent. I think that the leadership of Super-Earth they are geniuses. I think they are actual geniuses. But the thing is, when we're talking about a boots-on-the-ground confrontation, we're not talking about scientists or military strategists, are we? We're talking about your average soldier, your average expendable soldier. Sure, you could say Helldivers aren't your average soldier, but they are still very much expendable. That is a fact. A boots-on-the-ground soldier and a scientist or military strategist are two very different things. I never said Helldivers were bad at killing things. I never said they were bad at shooting things. I never said they were bad at blowing things up. Of course, they're going to be good at shooting and killing things. But does that make them intelligent? No, it does not necessarily mean they are intelligent. The strategy that you see from Helldivers, at least in game, is very basic stuff. They don't do anything like strategically mind-blowing or impressive. It would be far more impressive if Helldivers did not literally rely on orbital bombardments and eagle strikes. Helldivers being good at their jobs, being good at shooting and killing things and blowing things up and destroying objectives and whatnot does not immediately make them intelligent people. Let's talk about the difference between, book smart and street smart. You can be two different kinds of smart. You can be smart or intelligent. You can be book smart. You can be intelligent. You can know your numbers and your math. You can know your science, but you can still make stupid decisions. You can still be an idiot in other more common sense scenarios. You can be a street smart person. You can have common sense, but you can be a buffoon when it comes to numbers and science and math kind of, stuff. You can be good at one thing and be bad at another thing. If you need more, evidence that the Helldivers don't have good situational awareness, that they aren't really that bright, I mean, just look at Arrowhead. Look at what they say about the Helldivers. Look at the lore and what the lore says about the Helldivers. Let's look at how Arrowhead themselves portrays the Helldivers, shall we?
While we carefully extract our natural resources,
Civilization of war. We will form the clenched army.
worth dying for.
In all these trailers, Helldivers just completely lack, situational awareness. They're constantly shooting each other, dying in ridiculous ways because they're not paying attention to what's going on around them. One of the key things, as I've already described, about surviving a predator encounter is situational awareness. You need to know what's going on around you. You need to know how to counter the things going on around you. You need to know what's going on. And then, okay, let's look at what the in-game lore says.
Mission complete without a single friendly fire incident. That will save paperwork. No friendly fire incidents. Well done.
Friendly fire is a common occurrence. This is literally stated in the game. Helldivers do not have amazing situational awareness. I do not think that there is enough evidence to suggest that they would actually be able to handle a predator. A Helldiver being able to shoot their weapon straight is not enough evidence to suggest that they would be intelligent. As for what Rouga was saying about, the Stalker Terminids and how players were able to counter that over time, okay, do you understand the flaw in that logic, though? This is a one-time scenario that I am talking about here. A single squad of Helldivers versus one Predator. We're not talking about an extended conflict. We're talking about one time. Both sides, well, I guess the Helldivers are unfamiliar with the Predator, but the Predator would have stalked the Helldivers for a little while beforehand, right? Because that's what they do. Players, as you said yourself, got killed a lot by the Stalker Terminids because they were brand new. They didn't know how to combat them. Over time, as, the war progressed and as battles kept on churning out, players started learning and realizing how to actually combat the Stalkers. These 4 Helldivers are not going to have that same amount of time to understand how the Predator works. They're not going to be able to respawn and redo something if they messed it up the first time. That's not how that works. Yeah, that was that, I guess. Wow. So, of course, as you all know, that is the finale now. I'm done responding to Rouga because again, as I said, I think just inherently a lot of his arguments are going to be just made in bad faith because one of his goals are to just, upset people and annoy them. So I don't think that's, letting his arguments come out of the best place. And so I don't really find that interesting to engage with and debate with. But yeah, like the last video, I think this whole thing was very flawed, a lot of flawed logic, a lot of kind of funny stuff. I mean, he called me dishonest, and he was being dishonest for a few points in this video. He just straight up ignored half of one of my arguments. I mean, I really don't see how that video holds up at all right now. Overall, I mean, my final thoughts on Helldivers versus Predator, I mean, I think the point was, and I made that point pretty clear in my original video, I didn't really care about the matchup itself. The thing that I really cared about was how Rouga portrayed the Predator. My problem is that Rouga downplays the Predator a lot, does not give it nearly enough credit. But meanwhile, I think on the other end of the spectrum, he seems to give Helldivers too much credit. Like the universe as a whole of Helldivers, he gives that one way too much credit, in my opinion. But overall, I hope this video turns out to be shorter than my last one. We'll see in the editing phase, I suppose. Yeah, I guess I will be seeing you in the next one that will finally not be related to Rouga Rabid. So I'm just as excited as you guys are. I promise. Trust me. But anyway, have a good one.